FBI Director Christopher Wray was sounding the warning bells for Americans yesterday at the Vanderbilt University Summit on Modern Conflict and Emerging Threats, saying that Chinese government-linked hackers have already infiltrated into critical infrastructures, which, sounds
to the
really
average
awesome.
person, critical infrastructure is largely invisible. These are sectors whose existence we don't often think about or appreciate as long as they're working right. But these vital sectors, we're talking about everything from water treatment facilities and energy grids to transportation and information technology, form the backbone of our society. And what a lot of Americans may not be tracking closely is that China is positioning its enormous hacking enterprise, remember, 50 to 1, for more than just the outrageous theft campaign I described a few minutes ago. It's using that mass, those numbers, to give itself the ability to physically wreak havoc on our critical infrastructure at a time of its choosing. The PRC has made it clear that it considers every sector that makes our society run fair game in its bid to dominate on the world stage, and that its plan is to land low blows against civilian infrastructure to try to induce panic and break America's will to resist.
Great. So what are we going to do about that, Chris? And also, no duh, right? Like, yes, this is how China has been playing its game for a very long time now. So where's the solution? I'd like a solution-oriented administration.
Do you think that it is possible that, because it's never happened before, that China would introduce a virus of some kind into the United States?
No, that would never happen.
Never
That's
happen.
silly. But it does make me think, what was it, yesterday or the day before, they had all of those 911 outages in all those different states in the country. Was that related?
If only we had a president that said we should bring the manufacturing home.
No one would. That's crazy, Matt. Who would ever want
make
that?
chips in this country?
No.
Make drugs in this country?
It ain't just that, dude. China is manufacturing. We were talking about this like on the other set with our respective careers and how much is ran out of China. It's insane. But you find out more information on it. It has nothing to do with like just because China can provide it for cheaper because of slave labor. That has almost nothing to do with it. It's more because the American people, the American government more accurately, is crippling its own folks with all these damn regulations that do not allow folks to produce altogether, or let alone at a cheaper price. It's insane. I mean, even in the toy industry, why do you... America, believe it or not, in the toy and like sculpture, like manufacturing, has zero infrastructure. All these toys that you guys see are made in either China, Taiwan. I think India's gotten the game for the most part. It wasn't always this way, but now it is. There's zero infrastructure. No matter how much money that you had, there's zero infrastructure for you to basically get that done in America. See, I think that he makes an argument for decentralization more than anything. That's what I hear. That's what I hear, because it's like, okay, we can't trust you. Right. And remember, he specifically brought the grid. There happens to be one grid that isn't attached to theirs. Maybe that's a more preferable situation, because let's assume that they are successful and they hack something. We wouldn't want that to apply countrywide, would we? Right. No, but that we would talk about solutions. To me, that sounds like more or less the solution, right? Like centralization has created a problem that these guys, you are so scared that they at some point, it seems more like it's inevitable, not if it's going to happen. It's a matter of when it's going to happen, that they're going to come in and hack something, be it our grid, be it talking about the water supply as far as treatment is concerned. That sounds like a problem. But it sounds like a you problem that you don't know how to fix, that you don't know how to more or less prevent. But sitting here saying that they may or may not do it doesn't necessarily help us. Or they what, 50 to 1? Is that what he said? I guess
we know they're going to do. We know they're capable. We know they are.
That's what I'm saying, though. Like, that's the point. Like, it's like, okay, telling us that is not necessarily helpful by any means.
Right. And that's why I'm saying, like, yeah, no shit.
I think
China's going to try to attack us from the inside? No way. I would have never guessed that.
So to me, what that says is look how bad it is, because we've known this for many, many years.
Right.
They're not addressing the border, right, where there's actual physical Chinese coming over, right, that can actually, do an attack on it, a physical attack, let alone that. So what would happen if they shut down the grid, right? They shut down the internet, they start paralyzing things. Well, they've all got a plan that's what you do if you're a competent military, is then you'd start moving your pieces where they need to go. By the way, I want to tell people about this. I don't know if you guys know about this. A few years ago, there was an attack on a substation outside of San Francisco. Do you know about this? There were armed guys that they tried to shoot out fans on the electrical substation that would have sent the heat up in the substation, melt it down. I found out about it. You can go and look it up. It happened. We did nothing. We did nothing. And here's the other thing. Our electrical grid is antiquated. Russia and China both have a grid now that's been updated. Ours is like from, I don't know if it's even from the 1950s. That would cost to completely change our entire electrical grid about $9 billion. Why are we sending money to Ukraine? Why are we doing it? We're all sitting there like, okay, it's 50-1. Take the $100 billion that you're sending to Ukraine and hire a bunch of hackers to go to compete against the Chinese. What are we doing?
None of it ever makes sense. But China's positioned itself. I'll give you a black pill first, but then I'll give you a white one. But China has positioned itself to where if they were to do something like that, because they provide so much of our goods, they're in this weird position where it's like America may even be forced to play ball. The white pill is China has its own issues, by the way, as well, especially with their own damn people. Yeah. So maybe something happens out of that would deter them from actually doing something. But it is something worth paying attention to.
We shouldn't be relying on that, though.
I agree.
We shouldn't be relying on them.
We should be proactive. No, we shouldn't be relying on the Chinese people to take it to their own government. No, for sure. I would agree 1,000%. I think this is where decentralization should be talked about more. I think the regulatory body, particularly in manufacturing, should be addressed immediately, like right now, as in tomorrow. That would be my argument. You should go out there, if you're a Republican especially, trying to get rid of all of these laws and regulations that really prevent the American people from producing in their own damn countries because it's too expensive.
Do you know what I think about often? Back before COVID was a thing here, and it was just in China, and they sent out all of those videos of people dropping dead in the streets, and then that like literally never happened here, and nobody ever got to the bottom of like who sent those videos out. What was that
BS?
Chinese, right, CCP propaganda to scare Americans? I mean, I would argue it would have to have been because they were just dropping dead in the streets. And that's really weird because nobody did that here for COVID. And like everyone just seemed to forget about it.
Well, and do you remember when they showed videos of them welding them into their apartment?
Yeah, well, yeah.
Like, and nobody's asking any questions. This is the issue. It is all on the American people. We can point here, we can point there, but it's all on us because people are not getting engaged. They're not asking questions. Like I said, let's just see what's going on TikTok, which is a Chinese propaganda tool as well. Right. So you're like, and you know what was funny? I just want to segue across to something. When we were going through yesterday, the jurors and where they got their information from. TikTok. It wasn't like maybe 6-7 years ago. It would have been Facebook, Instagram, right? It was TikTok.
Which still is a problem, I would say.
It's
not
all
be
a
getting
problem.
your news from Facebook or Instagram either.
It's all a problem, but it's really a problem when it's TikTok.
Yes.
So, I mean, we're in a lot of trouble. And again, as Eric always said, well, we all always say, can we please look after America first? Can we please stop sending money away? By the way, we don't have it anyway. But can we just sort out our own infrastructure, please?
Yeah, I mean, I really honestly thought that once COVID had actually happened, there were some silver linings, but I thought that one of them would be that Americans would agree that letting China manufacture our medications is a problem. Because if there's anything that you really don't want to have a shortage of, if there were some worldwide crisis or pandemic, it's freaking medication, life-saving medication that people need. Maybe we should stop letting our enemy manufacture it and send it here. I thought, okay, Americans have seen the problem. That's something that I've been on for a while, but nobody cared. Okay, well, this happened. Maybe now Americans have woken up. Maybe now they'll care and they'll do something about the fact that we should be producing our own freaking medication. Because let's not even talk. How about take shortages out of the mix? How about China decides to taint the medication that they're sending to us? I mean, there are so many different things that they could choose to do with that. And yet Americans they've just forgotten about it. And they're just like, well, we've got it back now. Everything's turned back on. It's totally fine.
We're a soft people.
Yeah.
We're a soft people now. There in some states, there's still, and this is something that I saw coming from England, like you can still get eaten by a wild animal in America, right? You can still die. And that's why Europe is so soft, because we don't have that anymore. There are not those situations where like a bear's going to come down and maul you. But we've become a soft nation where we don't like being uncomfortable. And I think this is where, you've got your people like Jocko Willink and all these other, mainly former military saying, and Jordan Peterson says it as well, like, you've got to be uncomfortable. You've got to be okay with being uncomfortable. You've got to put yourself in these situations. Americans don't like it. They don't want that. Give me my soma, reference to Brave New World. Give me my soma and let me go back to my life. I don't want to look, I don't want to see, this is horrible. And COVID is the classic example of that. That was tyranny. Mm-hmm. And we've just kind of gone,
okay, right.
Yeah, nobody's in prison.
Right. And
under the prison.
And how many lawmakers do we have still on top of that? I can think of one, Rand Paul.
He's the only one you're talking about. He's the only one, like, quite literally still holding, even Fauci's feet to the fire about how that whole ordeal was handled.
Yeah.
People have forgot. It's out of sight, out of mind.
And nobody actually has said that where the virus came from. Still
they
they're
haven't
saying,
even admitted fault. Like, you would at least be admit, hell, we can't even get Trump to do it. I mean, I think everybody cringes when he talks about, especially that damn jab. Every time he talks about it, we're like, oh, like, can y'all at least admit y'all took an L on that one?
Right.
Like, you got that disastrously wrong. Like, not just wrong. You got it disastrously wrong. It cost people's livelihood because you got it wrong. And there are still people that will shrug and be like, yeah, we just had to do it.
What is one of the things, I mean, I do it with my kids, right, all the time, and you use it in business, right? If someone comes up to you or you ask them a question, it shows character say, you know what, I don't know, but I'll get back to you.
Absolutely.
Or saying, do you know what, I made a mistake there, let me rectify it.
Yes.
That is fine, and this is something that I really wish Trump would do on the vaccine.
Yeah,
right? But again, because there's so many other things going on, actually, people are letting that go for now.
Yeah.
But it still would be great to hear him say that and say, look, I did what I thought was bad. And by the way, I was one of the people who's going, he's pushing his vaccine. This is great. This is great. He's initially to get it done because we didn't know at that point what was going to happen. And then the moment that we knew that it really was pretty much
I know.
You know?
Eric and I know.
Yeah, we were over there kind of, we were, it was businesses planned over here at Blaze.
Yes, but
I was in the community state, California.
That's what I was going to say is like, but you are, I mean, you share the same story as millions of Americans who that woke you up.
No. Totally woke me up.
To the dangers of the pharmaceutical.
Well, I mean.
Which I'm very grateful for. I was just.
So that's what I'm saying. I mean, look, you can look at the process and say, he thought, let's just take those videos, for example. Yeah. You see that and whatever intel he got because he's the president of the United States and he's thinking something really bad is going to happen. So what does he do? He moves to get the vaccine production move forward. And I didn't know, I was not aware of, which I am now, of what goes on in Big Pharma. Right? I was not aware of that. And this was like my moment where I was like, hang on a second. But he rushed to get that forward. I was like, that's smart. Instead of, we're talking about regulation.
Yeah.
Probably the wrong thing. The regulations. But you find out there's no real regulations in that anyway.
Yeah.
But he pushed it and he said it's going to be ready if this hits. I'm like, that's smart. And then when we realized, because of the amount of time that took, you realize that it wasn't really killing anyone, really. I mean, or certainly in this demographic. So when you're like, okay, well, I don't need to take it, right? I'm gonna step off on that. The fact that they kept pushing it after then, to me, was the moment where I was like, hang on a second, this is wrong. But if he was to just turn around and say, look, I was wrong on this, right? I listened to the people that advised me, and I was wrong. I think that most people would go, all right, I understand,
If you like this clip and you want to see the full episode, click here. And if you want to subscribe to the channel, come on, you do. Click here.